So these ligaments are what keep your spine together when you start to pull and hang, because you're not even trying to use muscles. That's why you relax, right? But when you only do decompression passively, but you don't train the muscles to keep you back up and get you back out of that, etc., you're overstraining these ligaments.
Yes. When I try to do dead hangs or any sort of trying to decompress my spine, I feel slightly worse. I feel like I flare up my nerve. Why is that?
Yeah, it makes sense. So what prevents your spine when you go into decompression? What would prevent your spine from just ripping apart? It's all the small tissue in between. So you have ligaments, you have tendons. When you hang upside down or just even hang from a bar like this and separate things, I would feel worse too, because it's not passive. It's letting gravity do the work, but it's pulling on stuff in your spine, trying to rip apart. And usually what that means is if the spine's trying to rip apart and it's separating the segments, that if you have a compression issue on the disc or the nerve, the fact that it lifts up a little bit gives it some room, and that just feels like a relief, but that's not fixing anything. But sometimes that lifting of the vertebrae on top of each other is very irritating, and it causes some issues, because what keeps it from lifting but not ripping? It's this sort of tissue I'm about to show. So you have ligaments, the anterior longitudinal, which just means anterior is the front, longitudinal means long ways vertical. So you have ligaments all between the facet joint areas, which are that spiky kind of bony outer part of the spine, and then the front of the spine here, where it's actually at the every vertebrae. So look at all the tiny white areas of the intertransverse ligament, posterior, longitudinal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And mainly this big one. It runs all the way up the front, all the way up and down, right? So these ligaments are what keep your spine together when you start to pull and hang, because you're not even trying to use muscles. That's why you relax, right? But when you relax, if you relax in a deep squat and your knees, pretend it's my knee, is bending, I'm not even using the muscles. What keeps my knee from snapping? It's all the ligaments. That's what's holding me up now, which is fine. But when you only do decompression passively, but you don't train the muscles to keep you back up and get you back out of that, etc., you're overstraining these ligaments, and it's going to cause pulling on the nerve. The nerves run through here. The bulge of a disc could be in there. And so the same way there's all these spinal ligaments, there's also like muscles right in there as well. You know, we could see, this is one of my favorite pictures. Showed it on yesterday's call. This is a little snapshot of this small box, and here there's muscles all in between every tiny spot of the spine. This is the better picture. So you were looking at I was showing the ligaments that run all in between. That's what's doing it when you're passive. Now, all these little muscles are what gets you back up out of decompression from the bottom. So we need these muscles to take on the load too. We can't just hang, go upside down, because that's just pulling on the ligaments, and it's not strengthening it. So you just get irritated, and it can shift, and weird irritation to the nerves happen. That was my mistake I made when I was trying to fix my back. I realized I learned this stuff from the experts on the internet. First, I would decompress my spine, which would feel somewhat good. And I would do that for a minute. I'd let my hips drop. And at first, it felt like it helped. So I started doing it every day. And then I would do a lateral side glide. And I would sit here and try to shift my spine sideways, because I had a lateral shift in my hips. And I was trying to balance out the side of the herniation. So I would do that. And then I would do press-ups. I'm sure you know press-ups, which are like the cobra, and lifting passively here. So every single day, that was my routine. I did it every day, from hangs for a minute, 20 side glides, 20 press ups, 3 rounds. And what happened was I got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse, and all those things became extremely painful. And I thought I needed to do them more. And it was frustrating because they all were helpful in the beginning, but then over time they got actually counterproductive. And that's because relief tools usually skip the work of building tissue. So what happens when you're getting relief somewhere, if you get chiropractic adjustments and they just clack, crick, and like move you, and snap you around, but you never actually build the muscles in between the bones or just manipulating, you just never actually change the living tissue that protects you. So yeah, man, decompression pain is a common thing for people who've had it chronically. Maybe someone in their first injury gets a lot of benefit from decompression, or if they don't have a severe issue, but I was in the same boat. All that stuff made me worse. So when I went to back extensions, I actually didn't feel good at the bottom, but it was okay for a moment. I felt better here, where I was semi strong still. But when I would relax, that's when I would feel pain. So it was just the journey. Holds actually made that a lot better for me. And then slowly the assisted reps and getting better at this has made all that better. So yeah, just keep building, keep building, keep building. Try to get the muscles as strong as the rest. And the deeper you get, especially single leg, when you go single leg, you work a lot of the little muscles that keep you from tipping, they stabilize. And we're going deep range. By the time you get to single leg deep range, you're getting very deep in the spine with the small stuff starting to help. And the only thing that's missing is deeper range, getting into Jefferson curl, and then with gentle weight, where it will really pull on the small in between stuff, which takes time. And then QL side bending. That's all that's left after the back the journey. So, any questions?